we were doing on probation as usual was not working. We were sending a lot of people to state prison for several years at $50,000 a year to come out in a couple of years and no doubt pick things up right where they were. Research shows that drug treatment on the outside is more effective than drug treatment on the inside. Nothing had changed since I'd been a deputy prosecutor in the late 80s. And second, I realized that the probation officers didn't have any tool to do anything in a swift and certain fashion. The probation officer would document all the violations and say, this person is not amenable to probation, let's send him to prison for 5, 10, or 20 years. And I thought to myself, this is a crazy way to try to change anybody's behavior. Well, what would work to change behavior? And I thought, how was I raised? How was I trained to raise my son, who was, I think, 15 years old at the time, but I was thinking when he was smaller. You tell him what the family rules are, and then if there's misbehavior, you give him a consequence immediately. It has to be swift, certain, and consistent. It doesn't have to be severe, but it does have to be swift, certain, and consistent. But the way I view it is, if you didn't get sent to prison and you're put on probation, that means you're really making a deal with a judge, who's now me, that you're going to follow the rules of probation. If you don't follow the rules, it's a waste of time for everybody, right? Probation's for people that want to work with the PO, that want to try to make this work. You know, if they have problems, they deal with it. I don't expect perfection. We're all human beings. We can all make mistakes. I make mistakes too. One of the key parts to this is, if you make a mistake, what's going to be really important is how you handle it, right? Something like a third of the people I have this conversation with, I don't see again, because they start following all of the rules of probation. And I would hope that would be the case with you folks. If you do violate, though, the way you handle that will have a huge impact on how much jail time you get. And you know, I respect the fact that you're all adults. My guess is, unless somebody put a gun to your head, nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do, right? You guys are grown men. You're going to decide what you're going to do. But if you do make a mistake, if you handle it responsibly, it's going to go a lot better. And since I can't control what you're going to do, I can control what I'm going to do. That typically means you're going to get some jail time for any probation violation. So let me give you an example. Let's say you had an appointment with your probation officer on a Monday afternoon. Monday morning, 6 a.m., your cousin calls you up, or your best friend, and he says, I had a beef with my landlord, I got to move all my stuff out. So you forget about everything else, or you take a day off from work, or if you're not working, you just go to your friend's house. You box stuff up, you get it all out of there, right? 6 o'clock that night, you remember, I was supposed to go see my probation officer. The way you handle that will be important. I look at what your actions are, not so much the words, right? If you go see the probation officer on Tuesday morning, first thing, they're going to drug test you. If you test positive, you're going to get taken into custody. If you test negative, one of two things will happen. If you have a paycheck job or you're in school that's been verified, we're going to try not to even have you arrested. Because we want you working, we want you going to school, but we don't want you using. So if you test clean, if one of those things is the case, we'll try to set the hearing for Thursday or Friday, and I'll probably give you a weekend in jail. Because you missed the appointment, so it's a violation, but you dealt with it responsibly, so we're going to make it really short. Some of you have been watching this morning, right, with what happened earlier with these guys. You can see I key off the way they handle it if they make a mistake. Now, some other people might come to court, might come to the probation office, test positive, and think, oh, I just don't feel like going to jail today. So they tell the PO, I didn't use, it must be a false positive. And every once in a great while, there is a false positive, so it's possible. But what we will do then is we will send the sample to the lab. They'll do a gas chromatograph test. We will find out one way or the other whether there was drug use. But what I want to tell you is, if the lab confirms that it's positive, you can count on me giving you 5 times as much jail time as if you admit it. And so if you came in and tested positive, admitted it, you'd get taken into custody, but we'd set the hearing like 2 or 3 days later, and I'll probably give you credit for time served, because you came to the courthouse knowing you were going to get arrested, knowing you're going to test positive, get arrested. That tells me you're having trouble stopping, but you're still trying to make it work. You're not running away. You're not giving up on yourself or the system. So if you admit it, you can count on like 3 or 4 days. If you deny it and the lab confirms it, it's going to be 15 to 20 days. Worse yet, on that Monday night, you might think, oh, I don't want to go back to jail. I'm going to go out and party, have a good time, and wait for law enforcement to come and arrest me. And unless you guys are grown men, unless you're willing to move to the mainland and use a fake name and wash dishes for the rest of your life, you know you're going to get arrested, right? You're going to be looking over your shoulder, and either somebody with a warrant's going to come and get you, or you're going to get stopped for speeding or something, and a warrant's going to pop up. And it's probably going to be at the worst time for you. You just found a job, or your wife's going to give birth, or something like that. But if you get arrested by law enforcement, I'm going to give you at least 30 days in jail. So admit to it, it's a few days. Deny it, lab confirms, it's 15 to 20. Law enforcement picks you up, it's at least 30. And if that continues, I'll give you the open term. Not that you're a bad guy, but you're showing me by your actions that you just can't, follow the rules on probation, and we understand that. You're going to be placed on the drug test hotline. That is going to be busy at first. We just want to make sure you're not using. Well, we try to keep the hotline open for a number of hours. It's typically 7:45 in the morning to 2 p.m., so there are a lot of hours. So don't wait till 1:15 to hop on the bus, right? You're never going to make it by 2 o'clock. And if anybody drives or you're going to get a ride, it's never going to be an excuse to say, oh, the battery died or my ride didn't show up. You folks are adults. I expect you to deal with your life to get here on time. We have great drug testers. If you have a paycheck job or job training or school, you can even work out a deal with your PO to come in at 6:30 in the morning. We have a security guard at the back door, so people in that situation can get a drug test at 6:30 in the morning. 10 minutes later, they're on their road. And when I'm getting coffee, I see a lot of guys with the lime green construction shirts. They're out there doing that. Okay, all of you folks who are not in custody, go down and see your PO. No offense, I hope I don't see any of you again in court. I'm sure it's a mutual feeling, and good luck. Otherwise, you're going to be led from here in shackles, so best of luck to you. Thank you.